Tsunade groaned as Shizune carried away another stack of paperwork. She had to work overtime before the Kage Summit tomorrow. The rest of the village was preparing for it as well. Sasuke reported Sakura's encounter with Itachi, and the potential of an attack on any of the villages. The Uchiha had isolated himself in order to get in some last-minute training. Most of the other shinobi were doing so as well. Hinata and Sakura, with help from Karin, were getting the hospitals ready, and Jiraiya was preparing a means of escape for the civilians. Naruto was waiting patiently for Shibaki and Fu from the hidden waterfall, as they planned to travel with them to the summit. Gaara was planning to join them halfway. Roshi and the Four Tails, Son Goku, were also planning to meet them halfway. Han sent him a letter yesterday saying he would be accompanying the Tsuchikage, which meant Naruto only had to worry about the 2 and 8 Tails Jinchuriki. He expected them to join the Raikage, but now it was up to luck. Yagura's arrival was also based on luck. Even though his message to him was successful, he didn't know if his efforts had been undermined since then. The blonde's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. He turned his head to the village gate. Shibaki looked the same since the last time he saw them. Fu was a different story. She was taller, and her hair had grown several inches, with half of it tied back in a ponytail, the rest resting against her shoulders. Her skirt now came to her knees. She still wore a crop top and arm covers, but her mesh clothing underneath now covered her stomach and came down to her ankles. Her forehead protector now hung around her neck. Fu's eyes landed on Naruto, and she immediately ran up to him, a huge smile on her face. "It's been forever, little brother Naruto," she shouted, jumping into his arms. Naruto managed to keep his balance, hugging his fellow Jinchuriki back. "But wait," Fu said, pulling herself away. "You're younger than me, but you're also taller. So are you my little brother or big brother?" Naruto scoffed and rolled his eyes. "Just brother will suffice, Fu." Fu grinned and pulled away. "So, how've you been? I heard you were on a training trip the last 2 years." Naruto smiled. "I've been great, and the last 2 years have been kind to you as well. I can tell just by your chakra signature that you've grown stronger." Fu smirked as Shibaki walked up to shake Naruto's hand. "Chome finally decided to give me full access to most of her powers. And I've been training every day with those insect techniques Shino gave me years ago." Naruto chuckled. "Well, I hate to say it, but Shino's on a mission right now, and won't get back until after the summit. Your romantic reunion will have to wait." "Trust me," Shibaki chimed in. "She's not ready to see him yet." Seeing that Aburame has stressed her out more than the summit itself, Fu put on a pouty face at her village leader, although she couldn't deny that fact. "I assume Lady Tsunade wishes to meet with us," Shibaki stated. Naruto nodded, placing a hand on each of them. They appeared outside the Hokage office, both of them holding their stomachs for a moment. "Is that what this kunai you gave me was for?" Fu asked, pulling the 3-pronged kunai Naruto gave her, Han, and Roshi 3 years ago. "Yes, but this kunai is now obsolete. I've perfected my father's jutsu since then." Shibaki nodded in understanding. "So, you're the 4th Hokage-san, I see. I can't believe I didn't notice it before." "Don't worry," Naruto groaned. "Only my closest companions know about my heritage. Not even the Shinobi Council knows, and they knew my father." Naruto opened the door to see Tsunade half asleep in her chair, stacks of paper littering the desk and floor. Naruto was tempted to blow them all away with a Winjutsu, but restrained himself. Instead, he shocked Tsunade awake with a bit of lightning, making her jump in surprise. "Oh, Naruto," the old lady groans. "Are our guests here?" Naruto nodded, making her turn to face Shibaki and Fu. "Sorry for that. Thank you for coming. It's an honor." "Likewise, Lady Tsunade," Shibaki replied, pulling Fu's head down to bow. "I appreciate your efforts to allow us to join this Kage Summit. I believe this will be the first time a village besides the 5 great nations has attended such an event." Don't thank me. Thank our Jinchuriki here. He was adamant about getting you guys to the meeting so the tailed beasts could be together. Tsunade huffed. I can understand his reasoning, but it's also made my job more stressful. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Do you need Fu here or can we leave? Tsunade waved her hand, telling them to scamper off. Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder, the two of them appearing in the middle of Training Ground Rookie. To say it was a mess would be an understatement. Multiple craters riddled the field. Trees were uprooted, bubbles of various sizes floating through the air. Fu was about to touch one, but Naruto stopped her. He picked up a stone and tossed it at the bubble, making it explode. Fu shuddered, imagining what might have happened if she had touched it. The bubble slowly began to pop harmlessly, allowing Naruto and Fu to move on. Naruto, do you need something? Utakata called out from within the large dust cloud. I brought our sister to meet you. The girl from the hidden waterfall? The one and only. Just give me a minute, Utakata responded. The other Jinchuriki felt a buildup of intense chakra. A purple orb of chakra slowly materialized, reaching the size of a Rasengan. Utakata released the tailed beast bomb, letting it fly towards a distant boulder. The three of them shielded themselves from the blast. Chunks of rock and earth flew in every direction. Naruto was the first one who was able to see through the dust. When he saw the crater, he assumed that the entire village would be in uproar any minute now. I think you may have overdid it a little, Naruto muttered. Yeah, maybe more than a little, Utakata replied. That was awesome! Fu pounced onto Utakata, making the man grunt in surprise. Could you not choke me to death? Utakata asked through clenched teeth. Fu let go of him, taking in his full appearance. She clutched her head for a moment, feeling the presence of Chomei's six-tailed brother. Utakata felt Chomei's presence as well. He looked down at Fu. He couldn't understand how she was older than Naruto, yet looked so much younger. It's a pleasure, Fu said with a slight bow. Utakata raised his hand. No need to be formal. We're family, aren't we? Fu grinned. That was a really strong attack. How did you do it? You don't know how to use a tailed beast bomb? Fu shook her head. To put it simply, it's the strongest attack a Jinchuriki can perform with the cooperation of their tailed beast. Fu's eyes lit up in excitement. Can you teach me? Utakata was taken aback. Why not ask Naruto? He probably knows how to do it, and his is stronger. Actually, Naruto drawled out. I've never used a tailed beast bomb before. Seriously? Utakata asked in shock. What? I've been focused on other things. My Rasengan variants have taken up most of my time. But since they are similar, I doubt I would have any trouble using a tailed beast bomb if I needed. Utakata groaned, furrowing his brow. Fine, I'll teach you. Fu jumped up and down in excitement. She had too much energy for Utakata's taste. He hoped none of the other Jinchuriki were as weird as she was. Do it somewhere else before a mob shows up to see what that explosion was, Naruto suggested. The Forest of Death should be open if you ask Anko. Anko? You mean the proctor for the Chunin exams? Fu asked. Naruto nodded. I've got a few things to attend to before the summit tomorrow. You two have fun, and try not to kill each other. Naruto flashed away, leaving the other Jinchuriki in an awkward silence. So, how long have you known him? Fu asked nonchalantly. A week. You? I met him over 3 years ago, but we haven't talked too much. Did Chomei tell you that he was the one? Son Goku the Four Tails mentioned it the first time we met. I don't know what it means, though. Same here. The tailed beasts are so cryptic, Utakata sighed. Let's go. I'll start showing you the basic for the tailed beast bomb. Fu followed the man with a spring in her step. She instantly began to pester her older brother with a barrage of questions. He was tempted to shut her up with a bubble attack, but he restrained himself. They were a family, and he wasn't about to see what her bad side was like. She couldn't help but grin at his annoyed face. He didn't understand why, but her smile was infectious, just like Naruto's, perhaps even more so. He wished he had the strength to smile like that. Uchiha Compound. Naruto appeared outside the Uchiha compound. The place had an eerie aura to it. That was to be expected, since it was literally a ghost town besides the one inhabited building. That same building was his destination. It wasn't hard to find. It was the largest and the only one that appeared to be well taken care of. As he neared the entrance, he heard the whizzing of airborne kunai and shuriken. He opted to jump onto the roof. He walked across it to the training field, where Sasuke was standing in the center of the field. Dozens of targets layered the walls and trees surrounding the field. Sasuke disappeared, reappearing several meters in the air. In the blink of an eye, he threw several kunai, each one aimed directly for the center of the targets. Sasuke landed in a crouched position, channeling lightning chakra through his body. The kunai he threw lit up with electricity, turning the targets to splinters. As Sasuke stood, Naruto could sense that he wasn't satisfied with that attack. From Naruto's point of view, he made no error. His Sharingan was telling him that he could do better. His thoughts were proven correct when Sasuke jumped again, sending even more kunai at each of the broken pieces of the targets. He hit all but one. Sasuke landed and cursed. "You do remember that Itachi has the Sharingan as well," Naruto called out, landing beside the Uchiha. "Your best bet, in my opinion, is to be as unpredictable as possible. The Sharingan's perceptive abilities are strong, but they can't read all of your attacks." "I know that," Sasuke stated through gritted teeth. "What do you want?" "Just came to see how you were doing. We haven't talked much since I got back from my training trip, since we've both been occupied with other endeavors." "How touching," the Uchiha said sarcastically. "I heard an explosion a few minutes ago. Was that your doing?" "No, it was Utakata. He and Fu are going to do some training before the summit tomorrow." "I see," Sasuke muttered, sitting down. "We'll be down 3 Jinchuriki and the Hokage. If there's an invasion, our combat strength will be decreased significantly." "Are you saying you can't handle it?" "Jiraiya will be around. So will Sakura, Hinata, and everyone else." "I'm not saying that," Sasuke growled. "We just don't know the enemy's numbers, or how powerful they are. If you guys need help, you can just call me via the Horizon marker." Sasuke nodded. He closed his eyes, allowing them to revert to their pitch-black color. "I've made my decision." "About Itachi?" "Yes. I'm going to kill him, then take his Mangekyo." "Why take them?" Sasuke grabbed a nearby stick and started drawing some pictures into the dirt. Once he was done, it showed a collection of Sharingan. It's common knowledge that the Sharingan starts with 1 Tomo, then 2, then 3. After that, the Mangekyo. But I've recently discovered that there's another stage. The use of a regular Mangekyo slowly degrades one's eyesight, eventually making them blind. The only workaround for this is to implant a relative's own Mangekyo into yourself. This prevents the blindness problem, and makes the Mangekyo easier to use. "I see," Naruto whispered, retreating to his mindscape. "Should I tell him?" "Do whatever the hell you want, brat. I want to sleep before the summit begins, so don't bother me," Kurama grunted. Naruto rolled his eyes, coming back to reality. "Actually, there's another stage of the Sharingan," he informed the Uchiha. "The Rinnegan?" Sasuke asked. "How did you know?" Sasuke revealed a scroll from his storage seals. This scroll is about an old myth from before the founding of Shinobi. It hints at the idea that the Sharingan can evolve into the fabled Rinnegan. But it's just a story. No one's ever been able to awaken it. Well, besides that Akatsuki member. Naruto then quickly explained everything Kurama had told him about the Sage of Six Paths and Kaguya Otsutsuki. The Uchiha was sufficiently shocked, but took it in strides. What are the chances the Rinnegan user in the Akatsuki is a member of the Senju, Uchiha, or Uzumaki clan? Honestly, Uzumaki seems the most plausible. Naruto folded his arms. It's just a gut feeling, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's an Uchiha in the Akatsuki we don't know about. You mean the one who removed Kurama from your mother to attack the leaf? Naruto nodded. The fake Madara. Back to the Rinnegan. I've had a thought recently. If we somehow obtain one from the enemy, would you be willing to have a transplant performed? Me? Have a Rinnegan? You are the most logical choice, considering you're an Uchiha and have the most experience with ocular abilities. But why not you? You have more chakra, so you'd get more use out of it. In terms of power, I have more than you do. You need the boost more than me. Even now, after so long, you still see me as inferior? Naruto chuckled. Without Kurama, we are equals as far as I've seen. Once you get your Mangekyo and potentially a Rinnegan, you will come rather close, I would think. Besides, the Rinnegan is an evolution of the Sharingan. Sasuke rolled his eyes. I'll think about it. If necessary, I will. Naruto nodded in thanks. Is there anything you wish to speak about? I'm good. I just need to be fully prepared for tomorrow. You should do the same and be ready to pull out all the stops. Sasuke stared at him firmly. This had to be the most serious he'd seen him. Naruto understood his mood. He felt the same way. Not only would the summit be hectic, but the potential for an attack would put anyone on edge. Him and his fellow Jinchuriki most of all. One thing at a time, Naruto reminded himself as he flashed away. Worry about being attacked after the enemy has shown themselves. Village Gate, next day. Tsunade stood at the head of the group, Shibaki right beside her. Naruto, Fu, and Utakata took up the rear. The rendezvous with Gaara had been set, and Roshi would meet them before they entered the Land of Iron. Is everyone ready? Tsunade asked. She received nods from everyone. She nodded back, and began the run to the Kage summit. Naruto hung back for a moment with Hinata, who was seeing them off. I don't care what happens. Call for me the second there's trouble, okay? He sternly told his girlfriend. I know, Hinata said between chuckles. I'll call you. But I can take care of myself. I know you can, Naruto sighed in acceptance. I just don't know how to get you off my mind when I know you might be in danger. Focus on helping your family. Right now, the tailed beasts and their hosts need more help than I do. She stretched up to kiss him. Now, you better stay safe. Naruto smirked. Of course, my princess. Naruto dashed off, quickly joining the others as Hinata watched with a smile. They spent the next hour on high alert. It wasn't uncommon for shinobi of minor villages to attack Kage on the way to a summit. It was their way of saying that they still existed. But perhaps since Shibaki was joining the summit, there might not be any attacks. Either way, Utakata had his senses spread out to the maximum, allowing him to sense 500 meters in every direction. Because of this, he sensed 3 figures heading in their direction. Once they reached the place their paths would converge, he asked for the group to stop. A few minutes later, they appeared out of the trees. Tamari was at the head, Gaara in the middle, Kangaro in the back. Naruto stepped forward to clasp the redhead's hand. It's been a while, younger brother. It has indeed. And I see you have some new friends. One old, one new, and one more old on the way. Let me introduce you, he gestured to the man with brown hair. This is Utakata and Saiken, formerly of the Hidden Mist. He gestured to the girl. This rambunctious thing is Fu, who has Chome. You might recognize her from the tuning exams. That I do, Gaara said, giving a smile to the girl. "We met once during the joint tuning exams. Though, due to my duties, we were unable to speak with each other." Gaara tried not to tense as Fu grabbed him in a bear hug. He loosely hugged her back and turned to Utakata. "It's a pleasure, Utakata." Gaara's eyes transformed into one similar to Shukaku's, the One-Tail's voice ringing out of his lips. "Gaara doesn't speak for me. I've been waiting to pummel you, Saiken, for a long time." "I could say the same for you, little Shukaku," Utakata responded in Saiken's voice. "I see you've lost half of yourself. Pitiful." "Hey, it wasn't my fault. This brat wouldn't let me go full power because he didn't want to endanger the puny humans." "Alright, that's enough," a booming voice declared. The two possessed Jinchuriki looked over to Naruto, his eyes blood red. "We can save the banter for when all of us are together," Kurama said in a commanding tone. "All of us?" Shukaku asked, confused. "I didn't know all of us tailed beasts would be at this stupid summit." Gaara shook his head violently, his voice returning to normal. "I explained this to you 1,000 times, Shukaku," he stated with a sigh. "Perhaps you lost your ability to remember things when you lost your other half." Utakata's voice reverted as well. "Seriously, that gets annoying, especially when they do it so suddenly." "Tell me about it," Gaara replied, relieved he wasn't the only one who had troubles with his partner. "Well, you guys are lucky," Fu pouted. "Chome never wants to speak through me. He barely even wants to talk with me unless it regards training. I don't even know what his favorite food is." "He likes to eat entire forests for breakfast," Kurama said mockingly through Naruto. "He's the only herbivore out of the 9 of us." Weakling. "Hey!" Fu's eyes glowed a bright orange, resembling the light that streamed through Chome's helmet. "I'm the 3rd strongest out of all of us. Just because you've got the most tails doesn't mean you can look down on me." Naruto forced Kurama back inside his head, apologizing to both Chome and Fu. Tsunade, Shibuki, Tamari, and Kankuro watched the exchange with confusion visible on their faces. 6 minds shared in 3 bodies, and there were going to be more soon. Tsunade forced the Jinchuriki to stop their banter as they continued to the summit. Hours later, the snow-covered terrain was coming into view, the icy wind already creeping into their skin. They stopped a few feet from the border, a pair of samurai waiting to escort them. Utakata sensed another shinobi heading their way. It was easy to tell who it was by the massive chakra they had. The figure appeared in the tree above them. "Naruto, is that you?" a loud voice asked the blonde. "The one and only," Naruto replied with a grin. "And I have 3 others with me." "It's been a long time, Roshi," Fu shouted, jumping into the tree, grabbing him in a hug. Roshi reciprocated the hug, then jumped down to face Gaara and Utakata. A few more introductions later, including an annoyed statement from Son Goku, the large group set off with the samurai. The Land of Iron used samurai instead of shinobi, so the nation rarely entered conflicts between the ninja villages. They often acted as intermediaries for the disputes, or hosted important meetings, such as the Kage Summit. They reached a large fortress that acted as the main defense for the country. Inside, the Kage Summit would begin. Lord Tsuchikage and Lord Raikage are already inside, their guard told them. "Our leader will show you to the conference room." The shinobi stepped into the stronghold, marveling at the impressive interior. Despite being a military building, it was well made. In the center of the entrance room, an older man with gray hair stood waiting for them. He wore a sort of formal attire, and the top of his head was covered with bandages. "I am General Mifune, leader of the samurai. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Kazekage, Lord Hokage." The 2 Kage returned the bow, as did the others. "It's an honor to meet you as well, Lord Shibuki," the man said to the waterfall's leader. Shibuki bowed as well. "I thank you for agreeing to let me join this summit." "Of course. Now, right this way." Mifune motioned for them to follow him. He led them further into the fortress. coming to a smaller room with a hidden balcony. Before you may enter, we request that all bodyguards accompanying you state their names and present their headbands. The Kage and Lord Shibuki must also undergo an examination to make sure you don't carry anything dangerous. Fighting is prohibited during the summit. The village leaders did as they were told, allowing themselves to be searched. Tamari, Konkuro, Naruto, and Fu stated their names and showed their headbands. When it came to Roshi and Utakata, they didn't know what to do. They stated their names, but couldn't give them any headbands, as they were both rogues. If you do not have headbands, then I'm afraid we cannot let you inside, Mifune stated. Would it help you to know their place of birth, and their reason for not having any headbands? Gaara asked. I strongly urge for you to allow them inside. I can vouch for their sincerity. They have a right to be at this summit. Mifune shook his head. I'm sorry, but unless you have good reason, I cannot let them enter. This Kage summit is to discuss the tailed beasts and their Jinchuriki. Am I wrong? Shibuki asked. Mifune nodded his head. He turned to look at the two, both of them channeling a small bubble of orange chakra into their hands. Mifune's eyes widened considerably. I see. Very well then, you may go in. But if you do anything we may consider as a threat, you will be detained. Don't worry, I'll keep them in check, Naruto promised the man. Do you want me to give them an excuse for why two rogues are joining us? Let them figure it out, Tsunade stated. Now, may we proceed? Mifune opened the door and allowed the group to enter. Gaara entered first, followed by his siblings. Shibuki and Fu went next, followed by Tsunade and Naruto. The remaining Jinchuriki followed close behind. Their presence was hidden by banners that had each of their nation's symbols. Naruto and Fu took position beside their respective leader, while Utakata and Roshi stayed hidden on the balcony behind them, thanks to the chakra suppression seals they had. They were surprised when none of the Kage reacted to their presence, a testament to the effectiveness of Naruto's seals. Tsunade, Shibuki, and Fu took their seats at the half-circular table. The Raikage, A, sat impatiently, but he didn't bother greeting the newcomers. Onoki was slightly more hospitable, which was uncharacteristic of him. Greetings, Tsunade, Lord Kazekage, Lord of the Hidden Waterfall. To you as well, Lord Tsuchikage, Shibuki responded, sitting down between Tsunade and Gaara. I believe we are only missing the Mizukage. That damned Yagura always takes his time, with both his enemies and friends, Onoki grunted. Wouldn't you agree, Tsunade? Why are you asking me? Tsunade asked. I heard that a group of your shinobi encountered a group of mist Anbu and had them deliver a message to the Mizukage. I just assumed it was under your orders. If I remember correctly, those mist Anbu attacked my shinobi, Tsunade replied coldly. Onoki didn't engage the conversation further. Naruto looked at the man closely. He could tell this one had a Keke Genkai, but he couldn't determine which one. In that moment, Han appeared beside his leader, as did another shinobi Naruto didn't recognize. She was a female, and a considerably strong one at that. She had short black hair with matching eyes, and wore the standard hidden stone attire. She's the Tsuchikage's granddaughter, Kurotsuchi. Han explained through the tailed beast mind meld Naruto had created, using his ability to pull people into his own mind as a base. Are the others with you? Han asked. Yes, Naruto replied mentally. They'll stay in hiding until Yagura gets here. Did the Raikage come with the 2 and 8 tails? Yes, they should return any moment now. He looked over to A, who seemed equally as powerful. Even without his chakra being used, Naruto could sense a coat of lightning surrounding him. The Raikage were infamous for their speed, thanks to their lightning cloaks. He would have to be wary of both village leaders. He'd heard stories that said A's speed was very close to his father's with the Flying Raijin. Onoki was a wild card. Even at his age, he was not to be trifled with. He's here. Naruto heard Utakata's warning, as did Gaara, Fu, Han, and Roshi. Yagura would be in the room any minute now. Yugito, A called, one of his bodyguards appearing beside him. Her hair was a dull blonde, and her eyes were black. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple shirt with black pants, with both having a cloud pattern on them. Her arms were covered with bandages and fingerless gloves, with her left arm having a chain of blue beads wrap around it. Yes, Lord Raikage? Get Killer B. Things are about to begin. Yes, my lord. Yugito bowed. She raised her head, catching Naruto's gaze with her own. Her hand went to clutch her head. A gave a curious look, but made no comment as she vanished from view. 5 seconds later, she and Killer B appeared. B had dark skin and a muscular build. His hair and goatee were white, as was his headband and most of his clothes. He wore the standard Cloud Shinobi attire, along with a red sash and white scarf. On his shoulder was a seal, which Naruto assumed was the seal for the Eight Tails. On his left cheek, he also had a bull's horn tattoo. His eyes were covered with sunglasses, despite being indoors. B also noticed Naruto, making a vein in his head bulge. Naruto winked at him and Yugito. B nodded, silently. Naruto wanted to wait until Yagura was there, before they acknowledged each other. Sorry I'm late, a calm but commanding voice said as the figure came to sit down beside Onoki. I had some trouble traveling here. Worry not, no one was harmed. Onoki grunted. Anyone who knew the Tsuchikage would know that grunt meant he'd sent shinobi to intercept Yagura. But considering he didn't kill anyone, Onoki was a little surprised. Yagura was short for his age. His gray hair fell over his face on the right and spiked up on the left. His pink eyes stared fiercely at the assembled shinobi. A stitch-like scar ran down the left side of his face. His shirts and pants were gray, and his small poncho and waist-to-knee apron were green. On his back, he carried a large staff, with uneven-sized hooks on either end. The end with a larger hook had a strange flower attached to it. He scanned the room. He couldn't help but clutch his head when he saw the 6th Jinchuriki. He didn't need confirmation. The looks in their eyes were clear. He glanced at Naruto, the only one who he recognized. The blonde gave a slight smirk as the Mizukage sat down. Good, everyone is here, Mifune said. Then, without further ado, I let this 5 Kage summit commence. Lord Raikage, you are the one who asked for this summit, so it's only fitting you start us off. A nodded and cleared his throat. As you know, I've called this meeting to discuss the Akatsuki and the safety of our Jinchuriki. The hidden villages might not all have the same respect for their Jinchuriki as the Cloud does. But I think we can all agree that the Akatsuki pose a real threat to them. They have already attacked one of my shinobi, and have been successful in extracting half of the One-Tails from Lord Kazekage. It won't be long until the remaining tail beasts are targeted. I agree with Lord Raikage, Gaara said. The Akatsuki are a powerful enemy. If I had been able to fight them at full power, I doubt the outcome would change. The Kazekage speaks truth, Yagura added. A few years ago, 2 Akatsuki members entered our land. We fought them and managed to kill one, but only after I had to enter my 2-tailed chakra cloak. Though, I do wonder why I was attacked in the first place. Perhaps it was to make things believable on your end, Tsunade suggested. The Akatsuki didn't want you to become suspicious of your actions. Sounds reasonable, Yagura replied after a minute of thought. What is that supposed to mean? Onoki asked. Oh yes, you don't know yet, Yagura said. In that case, I suppose I should explain. But first, I believe there are 2 people unaccounted for in this meeting. Why do you say that? A asked suspiciously. And what 2 people? Yagura turned his gaze to Naruto. Would you mind calling them? Naruto smirked. With pleasure. Naruto snapped his fingers. Everyone in the room feeling two new chakra signatures in the balcony above them. The two figures jumped down beside Naruto. "Roshi!" Onoki shouted. "You traitor! What are you doing here?" "A nice to meet you would have sufficed," Roshi groaned. "But it is nice to see you again, Han." Han nodded back. "Again?" Onoki shouted. "Are you saying you found him after he abandoned the village and let him go?" "I apologize, Lord Tsuchikage, but I stand by my decision," Han replied. Onoki stared with rage as Utakata looked at Yagura. "It's been a while, Utakata." "You too. So, it looks like you're back to normal now." "Fortunately, Naruto's plan worked, so yes," Yagura replied with a smile. "What the hell is going on?" Ace shouted, lightning spraying from his body. "Why are there two rogue Jinchuriki here?" "I allowed them in," Mifune confessed. "They arrived with the Hokage, Kazekage, and Lord Shibuki." "Why?" Onoki asked, his ki leaking out. "This meeting is to discuss their safety. It only seemed fitting to allow them to be here." "Well, I for one am not going to tolerate this," Onoki growled, instantly flying into the air. A box of white energy materialized between his palms. "Particle style! Atomic dismantling jutsu!" Onoki's attack was deflected, causing the keep to expand a few feet above them. Seconds passed, and everything inside the box vanished, reduced to atoms. Onoki glared at the blonde who had redirected his hands while he was releasing the jutsu. The blonde had a kunai at his throat. "If you, or anyone else for that matter, tries to hurt my brothers and sisters, I will kill you." Onoki heard the unbridled rage in his voice, and the ki he was releasing was stronger than anyone's in the room. He couldn't believe it, but as he stared into his ice-blue gaze, he began to sweat. "That's enough, Naruto," Roshi said. "I'm uninjured, that's all that matters." "I know," Naruto replied, keeping the kunai firmly against Onoki's throat. "But we don't know if that jutsu would have killed Son Goku or not." "Son Goku?" Shibuki asked. "Oh, you mean that's the Four Tails name?" "Names? Since when did tailed beasts have names?" Onoki growled. "Since forever, Lord Tsuchikage," Yagura stated. "I would know, as would the other Jinchuriki. Now, sit down so we may explain what is happening here. Wouldn't you agree, Naruto?" Naruto nodded. "You heard the Mizukage. Don't force me to make a mess." "Who are you to give me orders?" Onoki questioned. "The Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, whose real name is Kurama, by the way. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Or would you prefer for me to use the name Namikaze?" "Namikaze?" B spoke for the first time. "I remember that name. If I remember, he had quite the fame. You're his son, so fighting you must be fun." Naruto raised an eyebrow at the way B was trying to rhyme his words. "We can worry about that later, number 8. But I do feel the same. I've heard lots about both you and Yugito." "Can we move on now?" Gaara asked. "If we don't, Onoki is going to use his particle style to get rid of everyone." "Are you implying that I would kill all of you, Kazekage?" "From the tone of your voice, you're considering it," Gaara replied. "I care not if you despise us Jinchuriki, or Naruto for being the son of the man who killed thousands of your men. We are here to discuss the Akatsuki. If you do not wish to partake in the meeting, then I suggest you leave." Han spoke next. "Lord Tsuchikage, I believe I must tell you that, if you do choose to leave, I will not." "You're going to become a traitor too?" Onoki asked through gritted teeth. "Naruto went through a lot of trouble to get us Jinchuriki and tailed beasts together. Whether you like it or not, I'm staying." Onoki growled, turning his gaze back to Naruto. "You planned all this?" "Just getting the 9 of us here." Naruto finally withdrew his kunai. returning to his position beside Tsunade, who had a very annoyed look on her face. The tailed beasts have been used as weapons for as long as the ninja villages have existed. Only a few know that they are just as human as the rest of us. They have names, feel anger, sadness, happiness, and yet you've forced them inside us to be used as weapons. I wanted to give them a chance to reunite, to be a family again. Kurotsuchi rested her hand on Onoki's shoulder. Please, my lord, let Roshi, Han, and the rest go. You're siding with them? Onoki asked his granddaughter with disappointment in his voice. Han briefed me about this yesterday. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, you can't do anything without making the rest of the world your enemy. Onoki gave one last glare at Naruto before sitting back down. Fine, but only because Kurotsuchi is asking me to. You better give me a good reason not to retaliate. Tsunade sighed. Let's start over from the beginning. How about we have the Jinchuriki state their names? Does anyone have any objections? A turned to B and Yugito. Are you sure about this? Don't worry, brother. This Naruto boy is cool, and denying him would make you a fool. A turned to Yugito. And what about you? Yugito shrugged. It's fine with me. He seems trustworthy. Very well then, A said, sitting back down. Then state your names in ascending order, just so we're all on the same page. If we are stating our names, it's only fair our partners do as well, Naruto said. We all know how to do that, right? Naruto asked his fellow Jinchuriki. Yes, we do. Then, I suppose I'm first, Gaara said, standing. My name is Gaara, son of the previous Kazekage, and now the current Kazekage. My partner is named Shukaku. I will warn you now. He is rather eccentric. A sand clone swirled into existence beside Gaara. The clone then performed the transformation jutsu, creating a cloud of smoke. Once it had appeared, a tiny Shukaku sat on the table in front of Gaara. Finally! Freedom! The One-Tails shouted. Your mindscape is way too cramped, Gaara. Gaara blinked at the beast, making Shukaku shrink back. Whenever Gaara blinked at him, it meant that he was willing to put him back in the sand gourd he lived in when Naruto sealed him away properly. I'm next, the older of the two female Jinchuriki said. My name is Yugito Ni, of the Hidden Cloud. My companion is Matatabi, the Two-Tails. Yugito did the same actions that Gaara had done. One transformed clone later, a small cat made of blue flames and black markings sat on the table. Her yellow and green eyes stared at the assembled shinobi. A pleasure to meet you, humans, she said formally. My turn, the Mizukage said. My name is Yagra. As you know, I'm the Mizukage, and the holder of the Three Tails. The Three Tails was a turtle with a gray shell that had spikes protrude along the top. Its three tails were also covered with sharp spikes. My name is Isobu. It's a pleasure, Isobu said in a surprisingly timid tone. I suppose I should take this time to explain my actions as Mizukage over the last several years, Yagra said. This should be good, A responded, folding his arms. After I became the Mizukage, I was approached by a man who called himself Madara Uchiha. Of course, I doubted it was him. Even so, he managed to use his Sharingan and placed me in a powerful genjutsu. It knocked me unconscious for the next several years, believe it or not. This fake Madara then used me to create unrest in the land of water. He then forced me to perform unforgivable acts, such as the massacre of entire clans. Both me and Isobu were unable to break free. That is, until I was given a letter my Anbu tracking down Utakata were forced to deliver. Upon opening it, a shadow clone of Naruto appeared, placing a large paper tag on me. The tag proceeded to explode, allowing enough chakra to kill a regular shinobi from pressure alone to seep into my body, I still don't know how, but it was enough to wake me, allowing me to use Isobu's chakra to fully free us from the genjutsu. A couldn't help but whistle in intrigue. After coming to my senses, I realized what I'd done. Even if I wasn't in control, it's inexcusable. And so, after this meeting, I'm handing the Mizukage seat off to Mei Terumi, leader of the resistance against me back home. After I've done so, I plan to never set foot in the Hidden Mist again. To say everyone was surprised would be an understatement. Naruto, most of all, was shocked both by Yagura stepping down, and that the one to use genjutsu on him was the same Uchiha who had released Kurama from his mother. Now, that's enough of me. No matter what any of you say, I'm not changing my decision. It is what has to happen if the Hidden Mist wants to rebuild, Yagura said, pain apparent in his voice. Let's continue the meeting. Roshi scanned the room, making sure everyone was ready to move on. After introducing himself, his clone transformed into a small Son Goku. The four-tailed gorilla simply nodded to the others, but gave Naruto a smirk. Han's introduction was brief. The name is Han. My home is the Hidden Sand. My partner is Kokuo, the Five Tails. The tiny Kokuo bowed his head. The Six Tails Jinchuriki let out an exasperated sigh before speaking. Name's Utakata, formerly of the Hidden Mist. And before anyone asks, I'm not going back to the Mist, even if Yagura is no longer leading it. They don't treat their Jinchuriki well at all, so I have no desire to go back. Anyways, the Six Tails' name is Saiken. Saiken's beady eyes stared at everyone, his slug slime already beginning to spill onto the table. Fu was the next to speak, but found it difficult to keep her excitement restrained. Shibiki and the others who knew her could tell just by her eyes. My name is Fu, and I'm from the Hidden Waterfall. My partner is named Chome. She is the Seven Tails, even though it might not look like she is. She's actually got one tail, but 6 wings. The rhinoceros beetle didn't have any eyes that could see, but she seemed to be content with her tiny form. At last, my time has finally come. Killer Bee's my name, and the cloud is where I'm from. The Eight Tails Jinchuriki began, making A and Yugito begin to groan. My partner in crime is named Gyuki. The man paused his little rap, scratching his goatee. Damn, I can't think of anything that rhymes with Gyuki. Just get on with it, Yugito said under her breath. B fixed his glasses and made his shadow clone. The clone transformed into an octopus with the upper body of an ox. One of its 4 horns appeared to be damaged. Finally, it's been a long time since you've let me out, in any capacity, Yuki said, stretching his 2 arms. And for your sake, you'd better let me out more often. Yuki seemed rather comfortable with B, but Naruto could tell the Eight Tails wasn't very trusting of humans. He and Kurama were similar in that way. Just me left, the blonde said, creating a shadow clone. The name's Naruto Uzumaki, or Namikaze, whichever you prefer. Son of the 4th Hokage, Minato, and Kushina Uzumaki, the previous Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Speaking of, the fox's name is Kurama. Kurama's slitted, blood-red eyes stared coldly at everyone the first time he scanned the room. The second time, he locked eyes with his brothers and sisters, making each of them jump down in front of the table. It's been a while, brothers and sisters. How have you been? That's all you have to say to us after so many centuries? Yuki replied with annoyance. You're one to talk, Yuki, Shukaku shouted. The last time I heard your voice, we were arguing about whether Ashura was going to leave us, and you were the most intent on leaving. I believe that was you who wanted to escape, Matatabi retorted. Father made you unable to stand our presence, or anyone else's for that matter. Even before you were sealed inside a human body, you were always a little crazy. Shukaku growled at the 2 tails. Kurama couldn't help but laugh. His siblings stared at him, confused. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've missed the 8 of you. Are you sure you haven't gone insane, Kurama? Isobu asked. I might have been asleep for the last few years inside Yagura, but I know well enough to tell that you've changed. That's Naruto's fault, I'm afraid, Kurama chuckled. Hey, don't go blaming things on me, Naruto shouted back. Save the chit-chat for later, Tsunade shouted above everyone, making Naruto shrink back. Tsunade sighed and looked to Kurama. Thank you for appearing before us. Don't thank me, Hokage. To be perfectly honest, I don't care about any of this. The only thing I care about is my family, both tailed beasts and Jinchuriki. And since they are in danger due to the Akatsuki, I allowed Naruto to coerce me. Forgive Kurama's rudeness, Gyuki said. But if I'm being honest as well, not many of us tailed beasts care about what happens to you or the rest of the humans. In fact, some of us wouldn't mind if our Jinchuriki died. But, since we've unanimously decided that Naruto is our leader, we will do what we can to protect humanity. Hold up, Naruto stopped the Eight Tails. Since when was I the leader of anything? Since right now, Matatabi replied. We've been thinking about it ever since your chakra entered this world. What the hell is that supposed to mean? A asked with annoyance. That is for him to know, and him to know only. A grunted. Fine. Why are you being so quick to allow this? Onoki asked angrily. If the tailed beasts are speaking truth, then this brat has control of all 9 tailed beasts, and by extension, their Jinchuriki. Does this not anger you? One of them is your brother. A leans back in his chair. I trust B, and I trust that he, and Yugito as well, will remain loyal to the Cloud. I assume that is true of all of them. Besides, if it means that they will lend their strength to us, I have no problems. Especially considering the way we've treated them in the past. Agreed, Gaara said. None of us Jinchuriki know what the tailed beasts are speaking of, I assure you. We will discuss it later, in private. For now, we should remain focused on the Akatsuki. I never knew you were a tailed beast sympathizer, eh? Onoki growled. I wasn't, until Killer Bee showed me the truth. Despite the atrocities Gyuki performed in the past during his frequent rampages, I understand his reason for doing those actions. Onoki cursed under his breath, calming himself down as Tsunade began her report on the remaining Akatsuki members. When she came to the one with the Rinnegan, it was hard for the Kage, Jinchuriki, and tailed beasts to comprehend. Kurama decided that it would be best to explain the Rinnegan, as well as the existence of Kaguya Otsutsuki and her 2 sons. The other tailed beasts were against it at first, but Naruto managed to convince them. Once he was finished, the humans were still trying to figure out everything. Now, there is one more thing I believe should be known to everyone. Yagura and Naruto in particular will find this discovery interesting. Yagura leaned further in his chair. Naruto couldn't help but let his fists clench in anticipation. The man that used genjutsu on Yagura and Isobu is the same man that pulled me out of Naruto's mother. This fake Madara Uchiha is more than we expected. Ever since I was placed in Naruto, I've assumed that he was simply that, a fake. But, over the past 2 years, I've been going through each and every one of my memories, piecing together all the information I can gather about this strange person. Without a doubt, he's an Uchiha, but his chakra has become more and more confusing to me. Care to elaborate? Utakata asked. Kurama's 9 tails swayed as his face turned grim. He has 2 chakra signatures. 2? A asked, confused. 2, Kurama repeated. Only Jinchuriki can have 2 chakra signatures, and I know for a fact that he doesn't have any chakra like that. Both signatures are human, and I've encountered both of them in the past. Who do they belong to? Tsunade asked, leaning forward herself in anticipation. One of the chakra signatures is more dominant, similar to how a tailed beast and their Jinchuriki works. Whoever is in control has the more dominant chakra. I'll start with the weaker. It belongs to an old student of the late 4th Hokage. Naruto's mind instantly clicked. Years ago, when I stuck into my parents' house, I found a picture of my father with his 3 students, Kakashi, a girl named Rin, and Obito Uchiha. Yes, Kurama frowned. During the Third Shinobi World War, Minato and his students separated to attack and destroy Kanabi Bridge, a useful location for the hidden stone. Kurama noticed Onoki's anger rise before continuing. The girl, Rin, ended up getting captured, so Kakashi and Obito went to save her. I don't know the full details, but it seems that Obito was crushed by falling boulders, but was able to give Kakashi his undamaged Sharingan, thus creating the copycat ninja, A added. I always wondered how he acquired that eye. Evidently, Obito didn't die that day. He was saved by someone and healed, probably the one who that second chakra signature belongs to, Naruto said, turning back to his fox partner. So, who is it? Kurama let out a low growl. Madara Uchiha. The room grew deathly silent. Naruto glanced at Yagura, who was trying to keep his rage contained. The other Jinchuriki clearly knew how powerful Madara was, thanks to the tailed beasts. The Kage, Onoki most of all, were trying to find an explanation. My best guess is that Madara is using Obito's body as his own, Kurama continued. His own body would have degraded years ago, regardless of if Hashirama's Senju succeeded in killing him. My best guess is that he transferred himself into Obito's body, and has been using it ever since. If Madara survived his fight with Hashirama, then could that mean he's the one who awakened the Rinnegan the Akatsuki leader is using? Tsunade theorized. Most likely, Son Goku chimed in. There is one thing Kurama left out when it came to explaining the Sharingan. The Sage of Six Paths had 2 sons, one of which became the progenitor of the Uchiha, and the other, the Senju. Due to the conflict between the two, their battle continued through the ages by their clans, Uchiha and Senju. Madara and Hashirama were the strongest of their time. Thus, they inherited the wills of Indra and Ashura. Us tailed beasts had always thought that they were actually reincarnations. But we know now that is not the case. They are like Indra and Ashura, but not reincarnations. Due to this, Madara is the most likely out of all Uchiha to awaken the Rinnegan, Kokuo finished. But his body was too weak to use them, so he gave them to the Akatsuki leader after transferring into his new body in the form of Obito. Why not use them with Obito's body? Yagura asked. Because he's too weak to use them in that body as well, Han suggested. Also, by giving the Akatsuki those eyes, he can manipulate them from the shadows, never revealing himself as a member. Sounds about right, Gaara said, folding his arms. Regardless of how they came into existence, the Rinnegan is a real threat. And Madara himself is also dangerous, even if he's not as strong as he once was due to his new body. Tsunade, Onoki interrupted. You said the Akatsuki were likely to attack one of the villages today. Tsunade nodded. What are the chances we can defeat the remaining members and draw out the Rinnegan and Madara? Tsunade looked up to Naruto. The blonde blinked back. Itachi and Kisame are the only members left. Hidan has no body to use. Kakuzu and Deidara are still being detained at the Leaf. And since our resident Uchiha, Sasuke, is intent on killing Itachi himself, that only leaves Kisame, so long as Kakuzu and Deidara aren't released. Kisame is a strong fighter, Yagura admitted. Before he abandoned the village during my time being controlled, we fought one another, and he pushed me to use all of Isobu's power. In the end, I only managed to drive him off. The most dangerous part about him is his sword Samehada, Naruto added. It really likes to eat chakra. When I fought him briefly, I was only able to drive him off with fire ninjutsu. but he's probably overcome that weakness since then. If this Sasuke Uchiha defeats Itachi, and the others aren't released, then Kisame should be easy to take out if we have a few high-level ninja take him on, A said. We are at an advantage. Sorry to break it to you, right, Kage? Shukaku piped up for the first time this meeting. But even if that's true, you still have to deal with the Rinnegan. Us tailed beasts know next to nothing about what powers it has when wielded by normal humans, or how good their user can wield them, and if we and our Jinchuriki go to fight him, he has the power to capture us. Our father created the moon to close off the ghetto statue, so the Rinnegan has more than enough power to trap the 9 of us. The tailed beasts had a point that Naruto couldn't forget. One wrong move, and any of them could be trapped, even him. If that is the case, then the Jinchuriki should remain separated from each other, to make it harder for the Akatsuki to get us all at once, Gaara suggested. The more spread out we are, the harder it will be to get all of us. Even if some of us get caught, we only need one of us to survive, in order to prevent the Ten Tails from reforming. There's 2 problems with that, A interrupted, shaking his head. We don't know how much of each tailed beast is needed in order to awaken the Ten Tails. They only have half of Shukaku, but we don't know if they can awaken it with only that much. True, Yaga accepted. I don't remember everything about my time under Madara's control. During that time, they could have stolen a piece of Isobu. And at any point, when any of us have used Tail Beast Chakra, the excess power could have been obtained as well. And that's not even considering the possibility of gaining our chakra from our previous hosts, Saiken pointed out. How does that work? Utakata asked his partner. Previous Jinchuriki carry a piece of us to their graves. It's so little, it's undetectable. I seriously doubt that much could resurrect the Ten Tails. Kurama cut in. There is one way the Akatsuki could obtain my chakra at the very least, that I know of through the reanimation jutsu. 2 ninja from the Hidden Cloud, Ginkaku and Kinkaku, are in possession of some of my chakra. I don't know if it's enough to bring back the Ten Tails, but it's more likely than anything else. Even so, I think we should assume that the Akatsuki only need half of each of the Tail Beast's chakra to revive the Ten Tails, Naruto said. They were content enough to leave Gaara when I saved him and what remains of Shukaku. Then should we split up, or stay together? Roshi asked. I personally think we'll be better off together, says the one who's been on his own the last several years, Onoki grumbled. Roshi paid him no mind and looked to his fellow Jinchuriki. Either way, I'm planning to stay in the Hidden Leaf until the Akatsuki are taken care of. Son Goku seems adamant about staying near Naruto. I know I speak for all of us tailed beasts when we say that we trust Naruto above all else, Kurama stated. As for the Jinchuriki, I don't know. But I sense they'll gravitate towards him. No pressure, of course, Naruto replied sarcastically. Personally, I don't care whether we stay together or not, so long as we can quickly come to help each other if needed. I suggest you put it to a vote, Mifune said. The Jinchuriki come to a decision. Then, the Kage may decide how to proceed. I agree, A said, resting his large palm on the table. However, since Yagra and Gaara are Jinchuriki, they must be left out of the Kage's decision. Fine with me, Gaara accepted. The Sans Shinobi Council can take my place in the discussion. I as well, Yagra added. Mei Terumi will take my place, of course. Then it looks like we're in agreement, Tsunade proclaimed. Then, that just leaves the 9 of you to decide. Stay together, or split up? Gaara voted to stay together, as did Fu and Utakata. Roshi followed suit. Han was reluctant. He took one look at his Kage. Onoki was not happy, and Han didn't want to betray him any more than he had. So, he voted to stay separated. Yagra voted to group up. Yugito almost voted to stay together, but B voted against grouping up first. I like you, Naruto, but if you're going to be this group's leader, I want to see if you got what it takes, the 8 Tails Jinchuriki said in an upbeat tone, not rhyming for once. If you prove your worth, I'll vote to stay together. Same here, Yugito said, raising her hand alongside her close friend. Well, I want this to be unanimous, Naruto replied. So I'll show you my strength. Han, if I do prove myself, will you change your vote? The Five-Tails Jinchuriki looked to Onoki. The Tsuchikage looked back at him and rolled his eyes. Do whatever you want, Han. Han blinked in surprise that he was calling him by his name. He nodded to Naruto in acceptance. Naruto nodded back. In that case, I'll show you the power I have, without Kurama's chakra. Naruto began molding chakra when he felt his Horizon marker buzz, making his face turn pale. Everyone noticed his change in attitude, but Tsunade was the first to realize the problem. Her own eyes grew grim. Kurama sensed it a split second before the other tailed beasts did. Across multiple nations, they felt their father, Hagoromo's eyes, activating. The Akatsuki has attacked the Hidden Leaf Village. If you like what you just heard, consider hitting the subscribe button and bell icon to get notified about new videos. If there's a part you've missed, then check out the entire playlist on screen. If you like this story, please share it with your fellow anime lovers. Any support helps a lot. That's all for now. This is Ninja Kai, disappearing in a golden flash.